sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn your notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and shout out to every one of you for the love and support you all shower me here with. I am grateful, and you all are super sweet. So this Ghanaian British young man went on a rant saying that he met somebody in America, somebody that looks exactly like him, and he asked him where he is from. And he said he is from like a state in United States. And he was asking him, where exactly your grandparents and all that, where are they from? He also called a state in United States. And he was confused. Why are African Americans ignorant? This is his own, this is ignorant. And I am asking, what is ignorant about this? Or because you haven't even read your, you don't even know the history. Or maybe because British school system probably failed you and all that. If he is genuinely asking, why is it that African Americans do not know where they are from, I am sure a lot of people will kindly explain this to him. But he came out he went on a very lengthy rant to talk about African Americans, how they are ignorant and how they do not know where they are from and all that. And then, I just don't understand why people wake up to do this. Because like it's been British people every day, coming out here to gaslight African Americans. I do not find it funny. It is not cool. And I am saying we all are the same. Enough of all this diaspora wars. Stop it. If you do not know something, please use Google and find out what something is, or genuinely ask. I am sure people will put you through. Let's get into this video.
Bro, I don't know if Americans are genuinely confused or they're just thick, because this blew my mind. And if you're not American, this will probably blow your mind too. So I'm from England, right? But most English people are usually white, just like Americans are usually white too, okay? Keep that in mind, this is very important. As you can see from looking at my skin, I am not just white, I have black in me, which means I come from African descent. To be more specific, Ghanaian descent. Keep this in mind. I was outside in America and I seen a fellow melanin brother. Now, when I'm looking at melanin people, I can usually tell what part of Africa you are from your features. And I saw this brother that I thought might have been Ghanaian too. Big up my Ghana brothers, by the way. But was I so wrong? So I proceeded to ask, yo bro, what part of Africa you from? He said, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I was like, oh word, but like, where are your parents from? Atlanta, Georgia. So what about your grandparent? Atlanta, Georgia. So my next question was, how are you black? There's a lot of black people in Atlanta, Georgia, son. So you're telling me that you're not from Africa, but your skin is saying otherwise? Yep, proud African American, straight out of Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. And before I could ask him any more questions, brother, I answered it for myself. These people genuinely think that African American is its own race. And this is actually deep, bro. These African Americans are children. Yes, you heard me right. So I'm sorry to break it to you, but there's no such thing as African Americans. Your ancestors were just taken from Africa to America, brainwashed, and completely forgot where they came from. And that's the truth. So maybe go look at your history before saying I'm African American. These people genuinely think that African American is its own race. And this is actually deep, bro. These African Americans are children. Yes, you heard me right. So I'm sorry to break it to you, but there's no such thing as African Americans. Our ancestors were just taken from Africa to America, brainwashed, and completely forgot where they came from. And that's the truth. So maybe go look at your history before saying I'm African American.
Hello, my friend. African American isn't its own race, but it definitely is its own ethnicity. For it has every qualifying factor to be considered an ethnicity. You need to remember that there is a strong difference between the idea of race, the idea of ethnicity, and the idea of nationality. It seems that you're well aware that African American people have had their identity and connection to Africa purposely severed, meaning the formation of their new unique identity began in America. So why are you confused that these populations are referring to themselves as American? Now tell me, if you were to go up to a white American and ask them where they're from, and they were to respond with Atlanta, Georgia, would you also be this confused? If not, why not? Unlike African Americans, these populations didn't have their identity stripped away from them, their heritage stripped away from them. Anyways, the idea of race, identity, and nationality, their differences, I talked about them before, so look for it on my account.
Well, what part of Africa are you from? He said, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I was like, oh word, but like, where are your parents from? Atlanta, Georgia. So what about your grandparent? Atlanta, Georgia. So my next question was, how are you black? There's a lot of black people in Atlanta, Georgia, son. So you're telling me that you're not from Africa, but your skin is saying otherwise?
Y'all know what time it is. Okay, it says here you have a $1,500 rent fee that's due at the beginning of this month.
Why? Rent for what?
What you mean, why? You made this video for no reason, and we clearly in your head rent free. We don't even know y'all like that. And here it says you got a $300 clout chasing fee.
A clout chasing fee for what?
What is you talking about? Clearly you're chasing clout because literally all your videos have nothing to do with us, but I guess your views ain't looking the best, so you decided to make a video on us. So we'll take that in cash or money order. We also have a $200 ignorance fee because clearly you ain't did your research on why African Americans don't know where they come from. We're sick of explaining it to you, but clearly you ain't gonna learn. So now we're charging y'all $200. You know what? I'm getting pissed. $400. $400. Now the rest of you crumpet eating beans and toast for breakfast having heifers and dudes out there, shut up unless you do some darn research. Shut up.
These people genuinely think that African American is its own race. And this is actually deep, bro. These African Americans, so I'm sorry to break it to you, but there's no such thing as African Americans. Your ancestors were just taken from Africa to America, brainwashed, and completely forgot where they came from. And that's the truth. So maybe go look at your history before saying I'm African American.
How do you create an entire video and go on a rant for so long only to arrive to the point and then miss it completely? I recommend you learn the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality, but really you need to understand what happened to those African people when they were brought over. Like, families were broken up, they were torn apart, their names were stripped, their culture was stripped, they had a religion foisted upon them to brainwash them. And you can't go back and find out who your tribe or your country is. I have to pay money for a service like ancestry.com and then spend hours going back through the timeline and looking up all these people and doing research on documents and everything, and then I can only go back about 5 generations. And even if we do all of that, most of us hit the same roadblock. Take me, for instance. My name is Jonathan Gibbs. My dad's name is Johnny Gibbs. My grandpa's name was John Gibbs. I don't know what happened here, but it skipped a generation, but then my great-great-grandfather's name is John Gibbs. All up and through my father's side of the family tree, men are named John Gibbs or some iteration of that. And what I found out is that it all goes back to this place called John Island. And I'm going to let you know right now, it wasn't no black people owning a whole place called John Island. So of course the everyday person is not going to know which tribe or country that they're from. And their families have been in this land, the United States of America, since the 1600s. So they are Black American or African American. But within that name, there's an acknowledgement of the Africanness of it. So what part of it doesn't make sense to you? Of course they have been over here for 400 years, but at least they still acknowledge the Africanness about it. It's just because of the circumstances, they don't know any more than that. So what are you going off about, really? What are you mad about? TikTokers have no shame.
I don't know if Americans are genuinely confused or they're just thick, because this...
Baby, just say you looking for attention. Just say you did this for the likes, because ain't no way, boy, you got on the internet and called a whole group of people thick and then made a second video. It was like, I'm not even trying to come for y'all. Just say you want attention. Say you did it for likes. Say you exploited your distant cousins for attention, sweetie, because ain't no way you couldn't use that same internet you put them videos on to just do a quick Google or grab a book. Ain't no way you say you descend from Ghana and not familiar with colonization, and you live in England and you don't know what colonization is? Baby, come on now. Just say I needed some attention because I'm not getting it at home. It is very rude and disrespectful to try to check somebody on where they come from after they just told you. If the man told you he came from Atlanta, Georgia, baby, that's where he from. And then you proceeded to keep saying, keep going further down the line so I can understand what part of Africa you from. Sweetie, you don't know the history of America. You don't know that whole groups of people was stolen and systems created to erase who they were. You don't understand that other groups who came over here with melanin was just grouped into them African Americans because of the system that was created over here. You see what I'm saying? No African American or black person has the same type. There can be African Americans today with more white in their system than African. man. It's just rude. It's very rude to do that. If he told you where he from, baby, that's where he from. That's where he from. Why does that concern you? Are you part of this diaspora where you trying to figure out where you are from? Because them are the only people who should be asking when they trying to find clues to who they are. Do you go to Aboriginal Australians and ask them what part of Africa they from? Asians, what part? Because we're talking about melanin, right? You're talking about melanin. Do you go to Asians? They have dark skin. Indians have dark skin. Native Americans have dark skin. Do you go to them and be like, oh, what part of Africa you from? Because in the second video, you talk about the motherland. Like, you know, everybody comes from the motherland. So are you going to Europeans and asking them what part of Africa they are from? Make it make sense. I be feeling like a superstar on the internet because everybody loves to be in Black North American business. I'm trying to tell you, like, it is amusing sometimes, but it's kind of hurtful when your own cousins be joining in on the colonized mind state. Like, it is crazy to me that everybody's so obsessed with our history, like you don't know that the history been erased. We trying to pick up the pieces. Even the DNA places, if you paid to try to find out, they tell you your percentage of the race is not accurate. We can just tell you who you related to, but not exactly where you come from. That DNA place, I took 2 or 3 places. They all change my percentage each time. Sometimes they tell me I have absolutely no white in me when I know for sure I have white in me. Sometimes they tell me I am only from Ethiopia when I know I don't only have Ethiopian roots. Like, what is going on for y'all not to understand how all this stuff works? But you calling us thick. Make that make sense. It's for attention. That gotta be for the attention. It gotta be. Even if you wanted to go on phenotypes, you know what I mean? Do you go to Asians and ask them what part of Africa they from? You see what I'm saying? Because they have the same phenotypes as Africans. So why does it concern you? Why do you want to know how far? If he told you for the last 500 years, baby, my people been here, that's where they from. They didn't get here 5 years ago. I'm sure some information may get lost in the last 500 years. How do you know that he even have African ancestry just because he has melanin in his skin? Again, why didn't you pursue him with the other stuff he may be mixed with? Because you are clearly mixed. Stop playing in people's face if you don't want to get the backlash from it.
What part of Africa you from? He said, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I was like, oh, word, but like...
I see this conversation go on a lot online, and I know it's partially because we're all, to some degree or another, indoctrinated by our country, and Europe doesn't like to spend too much time talking about slavery because they don't want to talk about, you know, their part that they played in slavery. But it's always so interesting to see a Black European, or even just an African, have a cognitive dissonance to the fact that of why Black people in America don't know where they're from in Africa. Like, they don't know. And you know why they don't know. You all know why we don't know. And it's weird to attack us when we don't know, or when we say, like, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. What else can he say if he doesn't know? Your parent, as a Black European, your African parent left Africa voluntarily, went to Europe, mated with your white parent, and that's how you know you're from Ghana and also European. That is not the case. There was 400 years. I know European history doesn't really talk about it, but it was 400 years of taking people from a continent, Africa, and other continents as well, other countries, I mean, as well. And there was a systemic way that the United States went about taking away not only who these people were, their language, their name, okay? We hold the name of slave owners. Most Americans' last name is a slave owner last name. You know what I mean? So I don't understand. I every time I see this online, I'd be like, what are we even talking about? And why are you the person talking to me about it?
Usually white, just like Americans are usually white too, okay? Keep that in mind. This is very important.
Actually, my friend, you couldn't be more wrong. The people they're calling African American are the oldest group of indigenous people on the planet. The Americas are the oldest lands on the planet. Everything comes from the Americas, not Africa, my brother. If you want to do a debate about this topic, I'm open anytime, boss.
Bro, I don't know if Americans are genuinely confused or they're just thick, because this...
I think the only person confused here is you, babe. You. It's crazy how us African Americans, we really be out here minding our own black ass business, just trying to survive. We're only trying to survive. And here y'all go, trying to belittle and berate us for I don't know what reason. Y'all be doing it out the blue. Dude really sat up there and said, maybe you need to do some research on your history before you say you're African American. No. Maybe you need to do research on U.S. history before you try to come at us for not knowing where the fuck we come from. Dude sitting there talking about I asked this guy and he said, where is he from? He said, Atlanta, Georgia. I said, where are your parents from? He said, Atlanta, Georgia. I said, where are your grandparents from? He said, Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, bro. Because that's all we can trace our ancestry back to is the Americas. What are you talking about? We don't know how to trace our ancestry back to Africa. We wish we could, but we can't. And y'all know we can't. That is why African Americans literally had to become their own people with their own culture and their own everything, because we didn't know shit. Because when the man came over and took our ancestors, they made sure that they erased anything and everything so we can trace our ass back to that. We can't. They depleted it all. You talking about well, I can tell what type of African you're from just by looking at you. Great. That's good for you. That's great. Tell us then. Tell us. Let us know. Let us know. Y'all be using that whole, well, I know where my ancestors come from in Africa. Y'all be using that shit way too much. Y'all be taking that shit overboard. Cause good for you. Like I said, we wish we could. We just can't. Okay, so we had to become proud to be something else because we did not know where we started from. Like, what are you really trying to say? You're trying to say that we're not African? Are you trying to say we're not American? Because we're both. We're both. I'm finna end on this note. Y'all really need to just leave us the fuck alone. We don't be doing shit to y'all.
Bro, I don't know if Americans are genuinely confused or they're just thick, because...
Okay, please excuse my attire on this evening because it is all of 1:30 a.m. and I'm fully supposed to be in the bed. And I was on my way to bed until I saw this bullshit floating around Twitter. And yes, I'm going to still call it Twitter because what the fuck is an X? We don't acknowledge him or her or they. I refuse to acknowledge the rename. Continuing. I was perusing my last perusal of the evening. And then I saw this bullshit that came before this stitch. Go watch his comments in full if you like before you partake in this read. But let me just say something. I'm so sick and tired of other black people from around the world in areas that are not the United States of America giving us shit, giving us utter and complete obtuse shit about who we are, about our identity, about what we call ourselves. This young man, who gotta be young as fuck and telling us to read a book, but clearly he needs to read more than a few, has the audacity to say that there's no such thing as African American. He sees a melanated brother like himself, and he asks where he's from, and the brother says, I'm from Atlanta. And he's like, okay, where are your parents from? Atlanta. Where are your grandparents from? Atlanta. And he's like making the argument that it's stupid to call yourself African American when you're melanated. And then also coming for us as an entire group of people as though we don't have a history that erased our culture, erased our roots from us. He essentially puts the responsibility of us not knowing what country we descend from on us. A young man from the UK, whatever your name is, whoever else is watching who shares that sentiment, let me break something down for you right quick. And yes, I could put this a lot more eloquently if I wanted to. I could write you a dissertation with my full lexicon in use. But I am electing not to do that on tonight because, again, it's late. So for now, here's the layman's terms for you. Our ancestors were taken away from their lands involuntarily. They were packed on ships that were hot, sweaty, gross, disgusting, packed in like tuna in the bottom of ships. Half of them died on the way to their destination. But oh, by the way, for those who made it, they were put into involuntary servitude via chattel slavery. And since Brother Man wants to talk about let's learn the history, learn your history, well, let me teach you some history. What happened when they got off those ships? Not only were they sold to plantations where they worked the land for free, where they were literally worked to death or beaten or maimed or raped and everything else in between that's horrendous. The most horrendous human treatment you can think of happened, okay? But at the same time all of that is happening, our ancestors were essentially taught to let go of any semblance of their original tribes, country, and identity as a means of survival. When they got here, they were stripped of their ancestral names and they were given Anglican names, so to speak, basically. Whatever the white people wanted to call them is what they fucking called them, okay? This scene is depicted in Roots when Kunta Kinte gets to America and he's like, my name is Kunta. And they're like, no, you're going to be called Toby from now on. And he's like, no, my daddy called me Kunta. Y'all going to call me Kunta. They beat him within an inch of his life. And the only reason why he survived is because somebody else intervened. But even that was dangerous because not only as a slave who is being taught and being conditioned to believe that you are nothing. You are nothing. You started out as a person, yeah, before we found you. But now that we done snatched you up, this is your life now. And if you want to keep breathing on this earth, then you going to shut the fuck up. You going to answer what we call you. And if you act like you show any indication of that shit you was doing before we brought you over here, we going to beat it out of you. And if you don't break, if you don't allow us to beat it out of you, we're going to kill your children. We're going to kill your spouse that you've chosen. If you're even allowed to marry or mate, because really, again, chattel slavery, we were treated like animals. They were literally the equivalent of like cattle. So we talk about marriage, partnerships, whatever. It was really about mating to create more babies, to create more slaves. Do you see where I'm going with this, mate? I say all that to say that if you are fortunate enough to know what African country, what African tribe your people come from, congratulations. There are so many of us who long to know that information, and we don't have a choice about whether or not we know that information. And you might argue, yeah, you do. You got a choice. Do you know how much digging Black Americans have to do to figure that shit out? It usually requires years of research. At some point, you got to end up on somebody's grandmama's granddaddy's farm that used to be a plantation, where your people worked the land, where your people were buried in nameless graves, where your people's blood, sweat, and tears literally cultivated another family's wealth. And by the way, can we talk about the mindfuck of those families attaining their wealth off your people and your people still having their last name? Because let me tell you, on my daddy's side, it's two sets of Griffiths. One of them's white down in Alabama and the other one's black. And the white ones pretend that the black ones don't exist. Since we want to talk about history and we really want to go there, since Black Americans, it's our fault. Anyway, it requires going to the source. You got to dust off the bookshelves that are decorative now, but that hold slave ledgers from back in the day. And you got to trace that shit line by line to find out who your ancestors were, number one. And hopefully, hope and pray that you find some kind of record that leads you to a ship, that leads you to a sailing plan from back then, that leads you to where your people came from. For the average Black American who's trying to survive, who's trying to make it in this shit-ass economy, who's trying to keep from getting locked up in the school-to-prison pipeline, and all the other subsequent things that came out of slavery, so that they can continue to find new ways to enslave our bodies, even though they can't work us without pay anymore, legally. You trying to fight through all of that, you really ain't got time to be trying to track down no plantation and no dusty-ass book with your people's information in it. And even if you are so lucky as to find some time to do that research, it's hard as fuck, because when you get back so far, and I'm saying this as somebody who has tried to do the genealogy research, it has to take breaks. because I'll spend a few months on it and other priorities take precedent. When you get so far back, all you find is first names. And remind you, those first names are names that were made up by other people that have no tie or semblance or indication of who these people were and where they originally came from. So please save it. If you are not a Black American, like, please get off your high horse. I'm so happy for you that you know your lineage, and I wish so wholeheartedly that I could have that too, but I ain't got that right now. Don't punish me even more for it.
Break it to you, but there's no such thing as African Americans. Your ancestors were just taken.
Hey Doodlebop, did you think that we didn't know that Africans were stolen and then taken to Europe too? But I'm not gonna mind y'all's business. But how are you going to be mad that we, as the Africans of America, had our cultural identity stripped from us and created our own unified culture here and choose to identify as such, meanwhile still identifying as African? What would you like us to do, my good sir? Are you going to pay for the ancestral retracing of every Black person in America whose family has been here for the past 400 plus years? Are you gonna fund the DNA test? That's not gonna change the fact that our culture is different from the other diasporas, but whatever. Every 3 to 5 business months with this shit, this dumbass diaspora war, I swear to God.
He forgot where they came from. And that's the truth. So maybe go look at your history before saying I'm African.
I find it funny how y'all never have this smoke to Caribbeans and Afro-Latinos, just African Americans, when we quite literally and figuratively was on the same boat. I don't have smoke for them either, because this is such a stupid discourse. I hate the whole idea we forgot where we came from, because we quite literally did it. Take sweet potatoes, or as Black people call them, yams, for example. We call them yams because that was the closest thing our West African ancestors had to their original food. Or take the banjo, for example. Once again, created by enslaved West Africans and now is a staple to Black Southern culture, is closely related to the West African instrument atongan. We never forgot our past. We just used our multitude of West African identities to create something new and beautiful.
So I proceeded to ask, yo bro, what part of Africa you from? He said, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, so the first time I posted something, it got taken down because I was cursing, so I'm gonna watch my mouth. But let me say this, as someone who is American and has African parents, my mother's from Tunisia, my dad's from Zimbabwe. When it comes to this repeated entire discussion about African American descent, silence yourselves, especially British people. Like, y'all calling African Americans dense for not knowing specifically where they come from blows me, as if it's their fault. And then another thing that absolutely blows my mind is how y'all never have the same rhetoric when it comes to people from the Caribbean side of the world, like Jamaica or Haiti or Dominican Republic. And they literally descended from slavery as well. And then for you to like denounce a whole culture that has literally influenced the world blows my mind as well. Just leave African Americans alone. Thank you.
Bro, I don't know if Americans are genuinely confused or they're just thick.
The people in the UK call people from the United States dumb, but you have grown men like him with the comprehension skills of a second grader in America. It's actually quite scary. So I just want to say, after watching your video from 4 hours ago, I can definitely tell that your mama is the European and your father is the Ghanaian, and that's actually very scary. You shouldn't be able to tell things like that from people talking, but you can with you. So I know this information may be a lot to process through your skull because, you know, life gets kind of hard, and some people just don't understand things like others. See them other people that I stitched your video, they was playing with your top. For real. They was talking too fast for you, and you was never gonna get it. They was doing it on purpose. So me, the nice person that I am, I'm gonna talk real slow for you so you can get it. Your mother is European. Your father is Ghanaian. Your father, more than likely, was born in Ghana. You know that you are Ghanaian because your father told you so. Your father has proof of him being born in Ghana. You can walk into a room with your daddy and you be like, Dad, where are we from? And you go, oh my gosh, we're from Ghana. An African American, stay with me, will have to get in a time machine, set the time machine to 1402 before Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That's when their ancestors were back in Africa. They would get in a time machine, go back to 1402, and they would ask their ancestor, where are we from? And even then, after doing all that time traveling, they still won't find the answers that they need. Because slaves bred with other slaves over the years so much that the average African American has three or more. It can even reach 10. 3 or more African groups inside of them. So even going into that time machine, back in time, and asking their African ancestor that was in Africa before they got imported to America, where they're from, it wouldn't matter. No, but why this video so long? But I feel like for the African American, when you walk up to an African American, you ask them where in Africa they're from, do you want them to spin around and throw a dart and see what random country it lands on in Central or West Africa? And then after that, they take a little map, they throw the dart again, and they get to pick a group that they're from. Like, do you think that's how it goes? Y'all scare me. Please do better. British education system, do better, please. We are begging here in America.
I think that African American is its own race, and this is actually deep, bro.
Y'all never try this goofy shit with Jamaicans or Dominicans, Haitians. Y'all never be like, oh, you're not Haitian, sir. You're from Africa. No, you call them Haitian because they're from Haitian. I mean, Hades, my bad. I'm stupid as fuck. I'm called Jamaicans. Hey, you African Jamaican, come here. You from Africa? No, you call them Jamaicans. I'm Black American. Just call me American. Call me Black American. Call me Foundational Black American. You can even call me African American. I'm proud to be called African American because I'm all West Africa. That's what makes up my DNA. The whole West Africa, not just Nigeria or Ghana or whatever it is. It's all of that shit. That's what makes up the African American because they used to breed us. Tired of the history lesson. Yeah, I'm done. I got it up out. I got them bad spirits up out of me, sir.
These people genuinely think that African American is its own race.
I can't believe in 2023, race, ethnicity, and nationality still got y'all punching the air. Like, we really be minding our own African American ass business, and here y'all come speaking in the OG colonizers' native dialect, trying to tell us what we are. I'm gonna need for you to mind your fucking business, bro. I'm gonna need you to be so motherfucking for real. And I could go out of my way to explain this, but at this point, I feel like y'all are being willfully ignorant. This is intentional obtuseness.
We literally mind our own African American business. Like,
however, a lot of that, I think, had to do with the
So this is all I got from this video, and I'm really tired of waking up to Black people coming after African Americans. Number one is that they are so ignorant. That is just the number one. Number two is that I don't know if their education system failed people British, because like, what in the hell is all this that I see every two days or 33 days? They wake up to ask African Americans some solid stupid questions. I mean, it's already obvious. Not just only African Americans, there are some other people, Australians and the rest of them, that do not even know, even some people in that British, that do not know where they are from. They know they are Africa. They are African American, but where they do not know. Why is that too hard to understand? And this young man, I am sure he knew, but he just wanted to be stupid. Even if he doesn't know, what stopped him from asking? There is no harm in asking questions. But he already came out to make a scene and call them ignorant. Like, what in the hell is going on? You all wake up every 2 days to gaslight people that are on their own, resting and sleeping. And then you end up calling them names. I mean, enough of all this diaspora bullshit and BS, because this shit ain't even helping anybody at all. I am sick and tired of saying it. If you are lucky to know where you are from, I mean, it's okay. And when he said he is white, but and also black, you are not white anything, you are just black. I mean, you can see it. We can see it. If you are sure that you know that your father is Ghana and your mother is from the other side of the world and all that, I mean, lucky you. Some people do not know because they stripped all these things away from them. Are we supposed to be reminding people of this every day? I know some people may actually not know this, but then you genuinely ask questions. I am sure people will be willing to educate you or tell you. But trust me, this young man knew. He knew. I mean, I am sick. You all should stop all this. It is not helping. We all are one. We are one. I'm tired of seeing all this, you know? Stop it. Stop it for real, for sure. The other one, it was the other lady that came out to call them dumb. And today it is this one also saying it's ignorant. It is not. You are the ignorant person here because you need to educate yourself. Instead of the time you use in coming to rant here is something you would have used to make the research to ask yourself questions. But you decided to come out here and spew your ignorance. I mean, see, on behalf of every other person, my apologies to African Americans. Please, leave all these young people. I just do not understand them. Every day coming up here to rant. Please forgive them. It is just them being ignorant. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.